Beautiful Friday morning here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and let me welcome all those of you who are here to the groundbreaking sod turning ceremony for the Lowmans Hard Court. Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralphie Gonzalez, who's on his way. Minister of Sports and Culture here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Cecil Mackey. Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, the Honorable Deborah Charles. Chairman of the National Lotteries Authority, Mr. Murray Bullock. Mr. Michael De Silva and Glenna Graves, also of the platform. Members of the audience, those who are listening on radio and viewing via whatever social media platform you're viewing, St. Vincent and the Grenadines world, good day. We are here this morning to witness the groundbreaking ceremony for another sporting facility here in this country. So let me welcome all of you, and please give yourselves a round of applause. This government continues to invest in sports, as can be seen from the investment in the premier stadium, the Annisvale Stadium, one of the most picturesque stadiums in the world for cricket, as can be seen in a number of hard court facilities across the country, as can be seen in playing facilities for cricket in Cumberland and in South Rivers that now host regional games, as is being seen currently in the construction of a world-class track and football field at Diamonds, which is really phase one of the stadium project. And this government will continue to invest in sports, giving an avenue for young sportsmen and women here in this country. The National Lotteries Authority here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the agency that supports sports and culture, continues to partner with the government to ensure that these quality fields, these quality facilities are constructed. And as the National Lotteries Authority supports sports and culture, Vincentians continue to support the National Lotteries Authority. This morning, to give us some opening remarks, let us welcome the chairman of the NLA, Mr. Murray Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Protocol having been established, please permit me to adopt same. As part of the Prime Minister's declaration of sports against crime, the National Lottery has embarked on an extensive program of enhancing, developing, and establishing new playing fields, repairing and renovating old playing fields and hard courts, and other sporting facilities throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When the ULP administration took office in 2001, the National Lottery was just an appendage of the Ministry of Finance. There was no legal authority, no legal status. The National Lottery could not have filed a suit against anybody, and nobody could have filed a suit against the National Lottery because it didn't have any identity or status of its own. With the incoming administration of Prime Minister Gonzalez, the National Lottery was put on some juridical footing, and it became the National Lotteries Authority with the full rights and privileges of all authorities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When we assumed the control of the national lotteries, when the government moved into office in 2001, the sales of the National Lottery was a mere $10.4 million. We had a staff of 33 persons, and we have 49 agents. Today, as I speak, We have a staff of over 110 persons employed at the National Lotteries Authority. We have over 110 agents throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Most of these agents employed one or two persons to operate their lottery booths. And I dare say that almost every single one of these agents earn a relatively good income from the sale of National Lotteries products. And this is tax-free income. The ULP government does not levy a single penny of taxes on any income of any agents, lottery agents in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Last financial year that ended in July, the end of July this year, the National Lotteries revenues amounted to over $90 million in comparison to $10.4 million in 2001. The National Lottery has disbursed hundreds of millions of dollars in prize money, agents' commissions, and support to sports and culture during the period leading up to now, since the ULP administration assumed control of the National Lottery and the government of St. Vincent. And let me tell you, brethren, ladies and gentlemen, I was not made chairman of the National Lotteries Authority because I'm bright or smart. I was made chairman of the National Lotteries Authority because the Prime Minister has confidence that I would implement his program in line with his vision. So, it is my extreme privilege to be part of the Prime Minister's team. That is the level of growth that we have experienced at the National Lottery in the years since the ULP administration has taken control of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is real growth in employment. We are not talking about a pie-in-the-sky biscuit factory at Diamond that would employ 2,000 phantom workers. And ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, a biscuit factory is one of the most automated factories in the world. And no amount of biscuit that you can produce would require that number of employees. So it was just, we're talking about hoax. And the National Lottery is positioning itself for the influx of visitors to our country as a result of the two things. One, the opening of the Argyle International Airport, and the government's performance in ensuring that Vincentians are safe from COVID-19. Because of the protocols that this government has put in place, we have one of the lowest infection rates in the world. We have 0 deaths, the highest recovery rate in the world. And ladies and gentlemen, it is only a matter of time, once the international economy is opened, that we'll see an influx of visitors coming to St. Vincent to experience the healthy environment, to see what is so special, so that we have such low infection rates, even though our country has not closed its borders. And talking about Argyle International Airport, Argyle International Airport is a reality, and that is why we have to position ourselves. Some years ago, about 30 years ago, one politician bragged about having 40 million US dollars, a check for 40 million US dollars in his back pocket to develop airport in St. Vincent. Well, the way I was taught mathematics and simple interest, your money would double every 9 years. So that is 33 years. So I would say 40 and 40 is 80, 80 and 80, 160, 160 and 160 is 320. So that politician owes this country about $350 million US dollars.
Yes.
Talking about employment, I was working on the Camden Park Industrial Estate. I worked there for 17 and a half years. Last position as general manager of St. Vincent Children's Way. And the Camden Park Industrial Estate was closed under the previous administration because of negative and backward policies. It was closed. So what are we talking about employment? Are we serious? And when I was appointed, I see Mr. McGregor Seeley in the back, my good friend. When I was appointed as chairman of the National Lotteries and I introduced myself to Mr. Seeley, he said, Mr. Bullock, I don't know you, I've never heard about you. Tell me something, are you comfortable negotiating with white people? Well, I promptly said, Mr. Seeley, I have 17 and a half years experience in negotiating not only with white people, but representatives of Fortune 500 companies. And I am quite comfortable in that position. When we assumed control of the National Lottery, we had very high management fees ranging from between 12 and 15%. We were told that the agreement was cast in stone. It was like the Holy Grail. It cannot be moved. In addition to that, we had an exclusivity clause in the contract where the National Lottery was not permitted to talk to anybody else with respect to the provision of technology and other support services. I want to tell you that we were able not to eliminate that clause out of the contract. And my board and I, who I salute here today, we were able to negotiate our rates down to 10%. That is millions of dollars that remain in St. Vincent to be used in sports and culture. And the National Lottery is involved in the development of sports and culture. There is no single community in St. Vincent that has not been touched by the National Lottery Authority. Last time we had Carnival in St. Vincent, the National Lottery contributed over $2.5 million in cash and kind to Carnival Development Committee. We are the major financier of Nine Mornings, Gospel Fest, East of all major national competitions. Anything you can think of, the National Lottery is involved in financing and supporting these initiatives. And we could only have done this, and we could only do this because the Prime Minister has reposed his confidence in the National Lottery Authority. This is not the mandate of the National Lotteries Authority. It is not the program of the National Lotteries Authority. It's a program of Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves and his ULP government, who has empowered the National Lottery to perform. And I want to tell you that in the next few years coming, we have two significant initiatives that we will launch that would further enhance the revenues of the National Lotteries Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say something about this project here. This project has only materialized because of the determination and tenacity and stick-to-itiveness of Debbie Charles. And I want you to stand and applaud Debbie Charles. Debbie Charles did not take any prisoners, and she didn't accept any excuses. She was determined that this project be a reality. And we are beginning the first step in ensuring that this project becomes a reality. This project is a very expensive project. It is a very intricate project. And when this project is complete fully, it would cost in excess of $1 million.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is Debbie Charles for you. And Debbie, today is the day. Today is the day, Debbie. And you can be justly proud.
Yeah.
I want to end by thanking the staff, the management and staff of the National Lotteries Authority. Mr. McGregor Seeley is the longest serving lottery executive in the Western Hemisphere. I want to thank my board, who is a tower of strength and who is like an encyclopedia of knowledge and ideas. And I want to applaud them. I want to thank the plain public and the agents who work tirelessly to ensure that our products are distributed throughout the length and breadth of cities. And I want to thank the public for their unstinted support of the National Lottery. You know, when you support the National Lottery, you support sports and culture. And always remember that you have to be in it to win it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful opening ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murray. I've never, ever, ever seen Murray that passionate. Says, could you check that cup for me, please? Check the cup, check the cup. I don't know what's in the cup, but I'd like some of that afterwards. Moringa? All right, good stuff. Let me recognize in the audience the presence of Senator Minerva Glasgow, who's here witnessing the ceremony with us. Murray also mentioned Mr. McGregor Seeley, the manager, Ms. Thomas Ali, who's also manager of Winlot. And it's good to see one of our cultural icons, producer extraordinaire Lester Iroha, in the audience as well. The National Lottery does support sports and culture here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our next speaker, the Commissioner, sir? Oh. Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner of Police here at St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our next speaker is a gentleman, a wonderful gentleman who loves to look forward to the past. He speaks of his athletic prowess, which has so long left him. However, he's looking forward to the completion of the... Welcome, Cecil Mackey. You call him Cess.
Thank you very much, Sion. What Sion didn't tell you is that I've already defeated him in the preliminary race at the tracks, and I sent a lower person to challenge him as well. He pulled up in that second event. So Sion, watch your mouth. Watch how you challenge me. Sister Debbie Charles, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Murray Bullock, Chairman of the National Lotteries Authority and staff. The two other persons on the platform, Brother De Silva and Sister Graves. Persons gathered here for this very special program this morning. Specially invited guests, who are here and who are listening, residents of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, home and aboard, and everyone else who is following this program. I pause at this moment as we welcome and receive the Honorable Prime Minister, the world boss, to Lowmans Leeward.
Good morning. I want to hail up Sister Debbie and Sister Minnie, who I see in the audience. And Cess and Murray Bullock of the National Lottery. And Michael De Silva. You chairing, comrade sister, is Michael? Oh, you did the prayer. Thanks. And welcome to all gathered here. I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to speak as soon as I arrived. I was on short leash, so to speak, because they told me the place had gotten wet. I have 6 events today, so I'm on the move. You know how it goes. And if Randy is listening, I'm coming to, yes, it's 5 in a row. I hear you. Me is light, especially when you say 5 in a row. I believe if they say that on the moon, the man on the moon I go hear it. Even Randy is listening. I want him to know I'll join him shortly down in Baga. And don't worry, the people up in North Windward, I'll be there. And those who have interference out of us at the school, I will be there. And after Rabuka, I'll be at different Red Limes tonight. So don't worry. 24 hours in the day. And I strong. And my back broad. And I'm an ancient warrior. I'm a hard man for that. Now, I want to thank the National Lottery for this project. We have a difficulty in West Kingstown because the terrain is particularly difficult. I know Sister Renee tried for us to have a hard coat, Learning Resource Center for us hard coat after wrong by Lowmans side, near to Llewellyn shop. But the topography of the place is such. Hi, good morning. I labor love. I'm glad that you're filming the thing. Carry it far and wide. I love that kiss too, girl. Thank you very much. But the geologists indicated that, look, while you can build anywhere, the cost over there, the people who did the soil testing and examining said it would be cheaper to do it somewhere else. And that has great danger in slipping, however much you do your engineering tightening. So this was decided. But I will tell you this. Debbie was fierce like a tigress on this thing. She wouldn't let go. You know, she was very firm. She said, come here, don't talk to me unless I get my heart good. So I said, but girl, I must talk to you. I love you and you love me. She said, no. Yeah, if you love me, I gotta make sure we do everything for this heart good. Well, thank God it starts. Thank God it starts. It's going to be beautiful. When we finish, it's going to be about $1 million. How is it possible for us to be doing all of this with a lot of money all over the country? You know why? When you do government properly. When we came to office, Lotto was like a hole in the wall operation almost. Just around $10 million in revenues for the whole year, which means under $1 million a month. Within 1 week of coming to office, I was seeing all the heads of the various organizations. The only one who I didn't see in that period, and I'm coming back to this, is Daniel Cummins from the CWSA. I saw him about 3 months later at a function, and he was there, and I said to him jokingly, I said, Daniel, as President of the Republic of the Central Water and Sewage Authority, when do you think it's appropriate for the Prime Minister to present his credentials to you? You hear me? Ask him. Ask him, you hear? Yes. Anyway, Seeley came. McGregor Seeley, the head of the Lotto, came to see me. Seeley told me that he had been with the Lotto since the Lotto started in July 1984, just before Parliament was dissolved, when Milton Cato was Prime Minister. For the younger people here, that song like Ancient Time. He said in all his years since 1984 running the lottery, and this is now 2001. In other words, in 17 years, he said no Prime Minister, no Minister of Finance ever called him to talk about the lottery. I said, no, the lottery has real possibilities of doing good work, doing great work. And he and I talk about a plan. I tell him, you're going to get a good chairman. And Murray Bullock consented to be the chairman. One of the first things which we had to do is to put the National Lottery on a sound institutional footing. Before, it wasn't a department, it was just a unit attached to the Ministry of Finance. Nobody paid it any mind. They had a board. Nobody saw, inquired what was happening. When I became the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee as leader of the opposition in October 1999, one of the things I did was to summon a meeting of the Public Accounts Committee and invited Stephen Joachim, who was then the chairman, and questioned him at the Public Accounts Committee about the lotto, and submitted a report to Parliament. By the way, in the 20 years almost since I'm Prime Minister, nobody, neither Eustace nor Friday, ever summoned a meeting as chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to do anything. They didn't do their work. Eustace didn't do his work. Friday ain't doing his work. And if a man have a lesser job and he ain't doing that job properly, how you go ask for a promotion? In fact, if you ain't do the current job properly, you should be fired. But I leave that in the hands of the people of Beckway. So, I said to Mac Seeley, we have to bring a lot to Parliament. Set up the National Lotteries as an independent authority with its own board, its own system, its own structures and everything. There are two persons who drafted that law. One of them, McGregor Seeley's daughter, who was then a young draftsperson at the Attorney General's chambers. And the other person is Ralph. Because they didn't have, when we arrived, the draftspersons. So as an experienced lawyer, I had to help. On weekends, Saturdays, even Sunday and one holiday, we finalized the law to take to Parliament for the National Lottery. So I in it from the ground floor. Listen, his Labour had the vision for the lotto, you know. And in the 17 years with the NDP, they didn't do anything about it. So I had to stand on Tato's shoulders with the lotto and lift it higher. I also told Mac, I said, when we have this organization properly set up, the next thing we go in for is headquarters. We buy a lot of headquarters, you know. When you do things properly, you can get things done. We bought the property from Dr. Cyrus. We also promised Cyrus something. He said, Ralph, you can do whatever you want with the property, but do me a favor. The squash courts there, please keep them. And Dr. Cyrus introduced squash in this country. And we gave him the honor and respect and kept the promise and kept the squash court them. So that the people all over the country, but including in the nearby community of Paul's Avenue, they can come there and play squash. And we build out the National Lottery. And then Murray Bullock, with his negotiation skills and his business acumen, started to renegotiate with Canadian Banknote, the provider of the technology for the lottery, and brought up-to-date technology and widened the spread of the games. Lower management fees. They had to put back more CBN from Canada. Until we reached the stage in the last year here, is over $80 million in revenue that the National Lottery collected. $80 million from around $10 million. You know, anybody have a glass here? You have a glass? I want to show you something with a glass. Not spectacles, you know. A drinking glass. I want to show you something with it. The NDP government left an empty glass, give me. And I pour water in it. Over 80%, more than 3/4. The NDP saying, look at what Ralph Hain do. You have less than, 20%, less than a quarter in full. And they're talking about that. But they ain't talking about the 80% plus that I put in when I mean nothing. And in the Lotto case is 80 million. And the reason why I'm asking you for another 5 years is to fill it up and not to leave behind any unfinished task. You hear me? That's what I'm doing. This glass clean? No. Not only that, the NDP left Victoria Park in a ramshackle condition. Nobody could play any sports there, you know. Some man writing in newspapers, one of them had a contract. One of them turncoat. I think he's somewhere in America. A tall Rasta man. They leave a mountain in the bottom side of Victoria Park. None could happen there. You remember that? You remember how ramshackle the facilities were? The toilet them were not flushing. Murray took that. Lottery took that. We gave them to fix up. And over the years, they have added facilities, fix up the place, put on lights. They have improved that park to the tune, in the aggregate, about $12 million over the last 20. Well, they got it in 2005, over the last 15 years. VC3 headquarters, CDC headquarters. I mean, the number of things there. In fact, the money which we give CDC alone is far more than they used to collect in a whole month for Lotto when we arrived. They used to get $75,000. They get $1 million and something dollars. They got $1 million and something dollars in cash. Other things in kind amounting total to about $2.5 million. You hear me? And they have built facilities all over the country. The National Lottery. I know I began by talking to you about representation, the way in which Debbie has represented the people of West Kingston for this. I can tell you this, Daniel Cummins is a poor representative for West Kingston and he should be removed. Daniel Cummins says that he said, I am the waterman. Vote for me for that. But he was a waterman up to 2004. What have you done in the last 16 years? And you are wrong, West Kingston. Since 2005 election. 2005 election. You know, I've been Prime Minister in that period. Daniel Cummins never write a letter to me asking to help anybody in West Kingston with any problem. Never make a representation to me other than come to Parliament and be a blowhard. When I was in opposition, even when I was leader of the opposition, I would go and sit down and wait for half an hour or more on ministers like Louis Jones, Monty Roberts. You hear me? I humble myself, because in this business you have to stoop to conquer. I ain't too proud. You know, when I was elected, Bandy Ways, fisherman Bandy Ways from Edinburgh, Bandy came to see me. He said, Comrade Ralph, I know you will do very well in Parliament. You're an educated man. You have ideas. He said, but you have to represent the small man and you got to get things done for the small man and woman. I said, that's true. He said, you have to go to the ministers. You have to write them. You have to ask them. Make representation to them. Because the money in the treasury is for everybody. You have programs, get them done in the proper way. And I followed Bandy advice. Never that you get anything from Daniel Cummins. I could talk about the others when I go to the constituency because the same thing. When I was in opposition, out of my own pocket, I gave scholarships to secondary schools. Out of my own pocket, when they wouldn't build, I made a representation about learning resource centers. They ignore me. I say, well, I could buy land and I could raise money to build one. Go and ask the Cabrals. I took $16,000 of my own money and buy a piece of land in South Rivers from them. In fact, they were so touched that I will take my money to buy land on which to put a learning resource center. They say, comrade, there's a small lot of joining. We will give you that for free so you can do parking there. You hear what I'm telling you? And I was raising the money, setting about it. And then, of course, the greedy bill came and the government fell. And the first learning resource center we built was in South Rivers on the same land that I bought. So don't tell me opposition can't do nothing. Then, a few years ago, Friday asking me in Parliament about this, the stadium, the facility, at the Clive Tannis playing field. Remember that? Said it's broken down. And when are you going to repair it? So I said, well, you know, the National Lottery has agreed to do it. He said, that's just words. He wants to see action. I said, okay, action time. I will immediately put from my resources $10,000. I want you to put $10,000. We both send our checks to the National Lottery. And the National Lottery will even do additional work. He got up, he said, he ain't got no money to put, that is government responsibility, not his responsibility. But say, well, action now. As Murray Bullock, I send them the 10. I told him, I said, all right, cheapsteak, you know, I want to put money, you want to talk. I gave the $10,000. I sent a check to them, and they started, they had in fact had already hired a contractor. But because Friday was getting on, as though you are representing, so you ain't know that I go pull the rug from under him. I said, man, put your money where your mouth there. You can do representation in opposition. But you have to love people. All that they do is bra bra bra. Make a whole set of noise and not representing the people. I tell you this, in this election, do not at all be surprised when you hear that Daniel Cummins lose West Kingston to Debbie Charles. He behaved here like he's a gargan. It's only 444 votes he win the seat by, you know. If you got 444 votes and you have what? 18 polling stations? 19 polling stations. If in every polling station, 10 NDP people who voted for Cummins turn and vote for Sister Debbie, that's 190, leave him, 190, then they come to Debbie, so that's 380, he lose there with that 190. 380 is just a short distance away from 444. Then you go, you have more NDP persons in this constituency who died, more than ULP people. In some constituencies it's the other way, but in this one you have about 20 NDP people more who died. And then you take the young people them. You see where I tell you that Daniel Cummins is ready for the plucking. Because he has been a poor representative. Daniel Cummins talk about poverty. What has he done in West Kingston to deal with any poor people to help them? What is happening now? The other day I go in Edinburgh and I go at Lee Hall. The next day he follow me to chase him out. He went down by the old road down at Flour Mill, where they be building a road there. He go down there. They chase him and he cussed them. That's what reported to me. That's what reported to me. All over this constituency, people are turning from Daniel Cummins to Debbie Charles. Before you can be a minister, if you're in opposition, you must be a good representative, and Daniel Cummins has been a poor representative. You're hearing me? So all the Labour people all about in West Kingston, I want you to go and talk to a neighbor of yours who is NDP. I want you to convince them, like how people in North Leeward moving in droves from the NDP to the ULP. I'm on the Rose Hall, so I'm with a Labour t-shirt. People came to me and tell me, first time this man voting Labour. So I say, comrade, welcome. Welcome to the Labour family. I said, this is a special family. I said, why you turn? He said, comrade, the first thing, you are the best leader that we have. He says, secondly, the government is doing good. He said, the third thing is that Patel Matthews can't step in Carlos' shoes. Matthews can't step in Carlos' shoes. That rhyme. Just like how Matthews and lose rhyme. And then he said this to me. He said, God, comrade, I'm tired losing with the NDP. He said, I'm tired losing with them. You hear the reasons? You got them there, you know. You don't put Friday because Friday is a learner. You don't. I'm a man with an all-type license. I could drive any kind of vehicle. But any road, I got international license. Thank you very much, comrade. The political world boss, the 5-star general. You hear me? And sitting down on the left side with Friday with the L on the back, near to the number plate. Telling you he's a learner. Is Mitchell. Behind, Quebecers, Daniel Cummins and Sinclair Leacock. All of them giving different instructions because they disunited. Turn right, turn left, mash brakes, mash X. You hear me? On Friday just doing the thing. Take the corner there. And then all of a sudden, son Mitchell say, man, give me the steering wheel. Take away the steering wheel. You hear? That's where you are. Then you come now Teacher Debbie knows more people personally by far in West Kingston than Daniel Cummins. She teaches them. They know her and she knows them. She turned on the tap of knowledge in the people's head. Daniel Cummins has a history of turning off the water tap in people's house. And Debbie, in addition to teaching, she decided on her own to study law. She has a bachelor's degree in law, you know. Equipping herself in every way to follow the legislation, understand them properly in Parliament. And then the government has done well. And when Daniel Cummins loses his seat this time, look, don't bother, the ULP is winning the election. The NDP is losing votes in every single constituency. Every one of the 15. Even where they would win or may win in the Northern Grenadines, because that's a hard one. That's a hard one. But even in that seat, Friday is going to lose votes. And when we finish with them this time, they will have to decide, are we going to Miss De Silva funeral home? Or are we going to follow the advice of Luther and take them by Ever Ready? Don't buy Mills. After this, them dead. I congratulate West Kingston on this achievement and the breaking of the ground today. Remember, register to vote. On voting day, go and vote. Vote the Star. Vote Debbie Charles. 5 in a row. Bring other souls to the Labour family. Vote for good governance and good representation. Thank you very much and God bless you.
As you know, the Minister of Sports was speaking but gave way to the Prime Minister so that he can deliver his address and then leave. And so now we invite the Minister of Sport to come to the podium and continue his address.
Thank you very much, Sion, once again. I think we should put our hands together very loudly for the world boss and let him know how much we love him and how much we appreciated that very, very full speech delivered. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. When I arrived here earlier and I was sitting next to Sister Debbie on the stage, and I said to her, Sister Debs, you know, I'm really jealous that you're getting a sporting facility down here. And I said to Murray, that $1 million that you're spending down here, you could spend some in my constituency as well. And they both said, but you're a really greedy man. You already have 8 hard courts and 7 playing fields in your constituency and you want more? Debbie only has a few. Put your hands together for this collaboration, for this facility today. You know, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have not only said, but we have shown that we are interested in the overall development of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When I assumed the position of Minister of Tourism, Sports and Culture in 2012, a little later on, Debbie came to me. She said, I want to live out that reality in West Kingston. I want to deal with the holistic development of the constituents of West Kingston. The policy of the government clearly indicates that in education, we have lifted the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines higher. It is visible and you could reach out and touch it. West Kingston has been the beneficiary of that development as well in education. A number of young people from this constituency, they have either gained full scholarships, benefited from tertiary support, bursaries, or individually they have received support to go on to higher education. In the field of health, we know that the government's policy is to develop health facilities throughout the country. Again, very visible. Not too far from here, about 10 minutes to here, from here, in that direction, very soon we'll have the construction of the acute referral hospital. Another facility that persons can go and access health here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When you look at what the Argyle International Airport and our emphasis on tourism has done, increased the arrivals by all types of persons coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. West Kingston, you have been the beneficiary of those improvements as well. And when you look at all of the other sectors, agriculture, culture, social development, West Kingston has also benefited from those improvements. And guess what? Teacher Debbie, Sister Debbie, has been central in terms of the discussion in all of those developments. Put your hands together for Sister Debbie. You heard different descriptions of her from Murray and the Honorable Prime Minister. She has been persistent and insistent in terms of development in her discussions with me. When it comes to sport, in fact, I could just look at what she has insisted on over the last 12 months. She said to me, for Christmas 2019, I want West Kingston to reflect something special. And therefore we collaborated on our work at the Botanic Gardens for the 9 nights activities. Guess what? She was successful. The biggest and the most impactful 9-night celebrations ever in 2019 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, thanks to Debbie, Teacher Debbie. Teacher Debbie indicated that we want to also develop the cultural aspect of West Kingston. She pushed me. She said, because I told her that I'm looking to develop the SVG Development Center of the Arts in West Kingston. She said, you must do it. And we were successful in getting the property at Montrose, where the Imani School was. And now we have a wonderful center there, catering for the craft people, for persons in art and development. Teacher Debbie was part of that discussion. And then she said to me, sport is going to be the focal point today. We're going to be discussing a lot of things around sport. Again, she insisted. She said that hard courts, we have one at Otley Hall, we have one at Bottom Tongue, we have one at Nutricia, which is netball specific, we have one at Montrose, which is basketball specific, but after that, we have to go a long distance for a hard court. She said where playing fields are concerned, we have one at Otley Hall, we have the Victoria Park, we have one at Lago Height, and then after that we have to go all the way down to Camden Park. And Teacher Debbie insisted that we do a wonderful job at the basketball facility at Montrose. And those of you who drive there would see the significant enhancement at the basketball facility at Montrose. Teacher Debbie was central to that discussion. That facility is almost complete and we'll be opening it pretty soon. Teacher Debbie is actively and aggressively looking for suitable land in the area to also see a playing field being developed between Victoria Park and Camden Park, which is the next sporting facility. You must support her and insist that that gets done already as well. Today, with the support of the National Lotteries Authority and over $1 million, and Teacher Debbie will expand on those plans for the development here. But we will be having a hard court here to allow the residents, in particular the young people of this community and surrounding communities, the opportunity to play netball here. I see a few netballers in the gathering. Because the netballers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they have done well for themselves. They have gained scholarships, support to go overseas, and they have educated themselves. You cannot separate education from other development. And therefore, we have insisted with our young people, make sure that you get your education, because you cannot go out there on any type of scholarship unless you have that foundation. Sister Debbie is well placed in the Ministry of Education, and she is doing what she has to do relative to the development of the young people where education is concerned. And in my ministry, we established what is called the cultural creative industry. And I've said to them very clearly, not only culture, but sport must be included in your mandate, because you must also represent the young people who are interested in going forward in sport. When you look at the history and the track record of this government, you would see that over the last couple of years, support to individuals, to clubs, to national teams, to associations where sport is concerned. When you look at the development of sporting facilities throughout the country, we are up now with the addition of this court to 65, and over the next 6 months we'll open several other hard courts in the country. When you look at playing fields, we have 54, and over the next 6 months we'll also open several other playing fields throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then there is the big one, the one that the young people have been calling for some time. Murray mentioned it, but those of you who have not gone to Diamond recently, I would advise you to take a drive out there and see the wonderful sporting facility at Diamond that will cater for track and field and the football. Put your hands together for that achievement at Diamond. And in the next week or so, we'll have a ceremony out there to confirm that the track and football field, they are no longer a promise. But in the next week, we'll have certification as a level 2 facility. And it will be presented to the young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the people in general as a gift. Our 41st anniversary of independence. And as a real flesh and blood project that you could reach out and touch, and the young people will maximize on the opportunities being given there. Put your hands together for that achievement. Sister Debbie has also been part of that discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, here today, we are looking at a facility that got the insistence of Teacher Debbie, that now will be given the touch of Teacher Debbie, where you, the residents, in addition to all of the other things that I mentioned that she has been doing, and she's not even yet the representative, but I'm sure that the constituents of West Kingston, you are going to insist that she is in Parliament for the next term, not only as a senator, but your full representative. Let's hear it one more time for Teacher Debbie and this achievement today, a hard coat in Lowmans Leeward for the people of West Kingston. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Mackey. Now we come to the lady of the hour, the senator who contested this constituency last election and will be doing so again this time around. You heard the Prime Minister talk about her efforts in the cabinet, representing the constituency and getting things done. You just heard Minister Mackey reinforce and reiterate that. And so the question for you is, why wouldn't you want someone to represent you who is already representing you? Why would you want to have someone being paid to do it, but someone else having to actually do the job? Ladies and gentlemen, to talk more about seeing this dream come to a reality and the plans for the people of this West Kingstown by this Unity Labour Party government, let's welcome the Parliamentary Secretary and the next representative for West Kingstown, the Honourable Senator Deborah Charles.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. I'm indeed thrilled to stand on these grounds this morning to have this particular ceremony. I am also thrilled by the expressions of appreciation from all of the speakers that have gone before. Sometimes I believe it's a little difficult for women who want to be representatives to stand among their male counterparts and get things done. I said to Mr. Murray a few weeks ago, right on the hill there, maybe I need to grow some balls. And he said to me, you don't need that. You have what it takes. You have your stickability-ness. That's a word that we both coined, I think. And this morning, we are standing on not a proposed site, not a site that we believe would be, but the work has begun. We are seeing the fruits of our labor. I insist that we have a hard court in Lowmans. One has to understand the relationship between exercise, mental health, and physical health. For many of us who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we did a lot of walking. And I said to my girls the other day, when I was young, I walked from Lowmans to the girls' high school every day and back. My mother is sitting there, she knows what I'm speaking about. That was the reality in those days. So we got our exercise then. But this generation of young people do not do the kind of walking that we had to do. And so it has become necessary for us to find ways and means for them to do their exercises, because it has to be done. And so building facilities, sporting facilities, is even more important today than perhaps 20, 30 years ago when I grew up. In those days also, there weren't as many vehicles, so we could have played a little bunnings and netball and stuff in the road. You cannot do that today. As the Prime Minister indicated, West Kingston does not have a lot of free space or areas for development. So we had to think long and hard about where we are going to put this playing field. Initially, we thought it might have been easy for us to have the playing field on the other side, in Boom Boom. We went with the persons from economic planning, and one of them said to me, "Debbie, you sure you want to put it here?" And I said, "Yes, I want it here." He said, "Okay." But that was Friday. The next Wednesday I went to cabinet, and I was told you can't get the playing field there. So I said, we have to have the playing field in Lowmans. And I said, what about that area that we bought to do the Learning Resource Center? Immediately, we started thinking, but we first had to find out how much land it was. So I went to the Land and Surveyors Department and I got the plan. And when I looked at it, it is 60,024 square feet of land. I said, okay, so we can have the playing field, the hard court, we can have the resource center, and we will also have, and that is in the developmental plan that I have before me, and this is what I think we need as a constituency in West Kingston. We need a road just behind where the Murphy's shop is, leading back to Spring, which would open up this area. The people from Spring won't have to walk on the main to come to the hard court. So they would be able to come through here, enjoy the benefits of the hard court. But what that road would also do, it would open Spring area so that those persons who drive into that area would no longer have to have the difficulty of turning in there, but they'd be able to come right back out on this side. You see, we are thinking about holistic development. But I'm going back to why we need the hard court and the wellness revolution that we have started here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Last year, when we celebrated our 40th year of independence, we dubbed it a year of sport for St. Vincent. And out of that, we now have this playing field. We are now going to have this hard court for West Kingston. You, the youths of West Kingston, and I say you the youth, but I'm thinking about young people like me too. Because I am also young and I am also a netballer. So that is one reason why I think we need to have this playing field, this hard court here. You see, I go and I play netball on Sunday mornings. Where do you think I go? I have to either walk or drive to Kettles. So having this hard court here is beneficial to all of us. The other side of that is, because of the development that is going to take place in Rose Place shortly, the new port is coming there, we are going to lose the benefit of the hard court that is already in Rose Place. Now, if you take that away from the people of West Kingston, there has to be a replacement. So this is a replacement for that hard court that we would lose as a result of the development down in Rose Place. But also, this hard court serves as an empowerment for our young people. What do I mean by that? When I look at the audience there, I believe I saw two national netball players were here with us this morning. This court here is going to empower you further. We have other national netballers who came out of West Kingston who are doing significantly well. We have Halima Dishong, who is now at the United Nations representing St. Vincent. And she was able to get a scholarship to go on to do tertiary level education. Why? Because of her athletic training. Not only on her academics, but because of her academic training. I'm saying that our students, our young people who will be using these facilities can also be a Halima. You can benefit, but you have to do the work. So while you study your school, study the academics, you will also be improving on your sporting discipline as well. I want to also touch briefly on some other things that are happening currently within the constituency of West Kingston and some things that we will do. Before I do that though, let me just say something to us. All of you who are seated here and all within the sound of my voice this morning would be aware that this constituency is represented by a gentleman. A gentleman who has been saying he is not in office, so he can't do anything. That's a lie. It's a downright lie from the pit of hell. When I first was introduced to this constituency in 2015, I went down to an area called Body Gutter. And when I looked at where the people were walking to get to and from their homes, I thought, we can't have people living like this. I set out. I wasn't in parliament, I wasn't in cabinet, I was still a mere teacher. I set out to start constructing the road in Body Gutter. I called several friends of mine and I said, we have to do something about Body Gutter Road. There were a number of friends that I had, and I must mention the now deceased Otto Williams. I would call Mr. Williams on several occasions and I would say to him, we need to do something. And in turn, he would say, Debbie, how much money are you looking at? What exactly are you going to do? And I would go to Mr. Williams' office. We would talk, but at the end of the talk, there was always something that I could go to the bank to buy materials for the work to be done in Otley Hall, in Body Gutter. I'm saying, if you are at the age of 60 plus and you don't have one friend, who you could call on to assist you to do something in developing your constituents, you are not a good leader. If at your age, you can't pick up your telephone and say, Mr. So-and-so, can I have $2,000 to assist me to buy some textbooks for these children who are in need in my constituency? Something is wrong with the way you are thinking. We have accomplished this morning, but there are other accomplishments, and I'm going to speak to them. Currently, we have the old Flour Mill Road, and most of you or many of you may not know, but where the road now leads to Flour Mill through the industrial site, that's not where the road used to be when I was growing up. The road was in that turning where you go in to Body Gutter. That's where the road was. Fortunately, we have a nice little village down there now, but the people needed a proper road. The road is almost finished, and I am sure the residents down there are extremely happy because they have that road. Body Gutter Road, as I speak to you, is almost complete. What we have to do would be the drains, and that would take us a few weeks to get the drains properly done. That is also being completed. This government that I'm a part of does not make promises it can't keep. We do not put people on any witch hunt. And so, we have told you that in order for us to do the modernized port at Rose Place, there are some things that need to be done. And one of those things would be to replace the people who are now living down in the area which would be affected because of the building of the port. Currently, we have down at Lowmans Bay a site where some houses are being constructed for the persons who would be relocated. I say this because I heard the gentleman of the opposition side saying that if his people are not properly placed, he would turn up the stones. I say to us this morning, no stones would be turned up, because the people of West Kingston would have their homes, and they would have them most likely by Christmas. I don't know how many of you here are from the village of Maho, but Maho is a little village nestled close to Camden Park. And that's where I was born. I was born in a little house that was owned by the Fabans of Camden Park. So I am very familiar with Maho. And when we were children, we used the river. I went across there recently and I realized that with all the rain that has fallen lately, the drain that goes across that leads to the river has broken away. And I said to one of the gentlemen who use the river very often, I say, how are you getting over there? He said, well, look at what we did. They had placed two logs across to allow them to pass. And I said to myself, this can't be good enough. We are going to find a way to get this done. They tell me that one of them called Mr. Cummins and said, let me show you something. And they took him across there. And he said, but that ain't my business. But it has to be your business if you want to represent people. It must be your business. But I was happy that he told them it wasn't his business, because I found it to be my business. Today, as I speak to you, the sides of the drain are being done, and they tell me by weekend they would start boxing the columns to do the crossing for that river crossing there in Maho. I'm saying this to you this morning because I want you to understand that representation has no boundary. Representation has to come from a heart of love for people. If you don't love people, then you can't represent them. And you won't be telling people, go and ask Miss Charles to do it. Because it's not Miss Charles' business more than it's your business. You are the representative duly elected by the people. So this morning, oh sorry, yes, it's already afternoon. This afternoon, you've gotten a little insight into some of the things we are doing here in this constituency of West Kingston. There would be more. There has to be more. There's a plan here of 30 things that I want to see accomplished in the next 5 years. But that will depend on you. That depends on you for two reasons. One, for you yourselves going out to the polls and casting your X on election day. But it also depends on you to send the message. Take the message. Take it to your neighbors. Take it to your friends. Take it to your children that West Kingston has a lady of action. A lady who speaks and would get things done when they ought to be done. It's not a matter about speaking only, but it's a matter of getting the job done. If we can't get a job done, then it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And I tell you, if I know that I would not be able to do it, I will take my seat. But I promise you, for the next 5 years, as long as you would have gone to the polls on November 5th and cast your X, and we are successful in the next election, I will do whatever is in my power under God to ensure that West Kingston is one of the best constituencies in the country of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you very much, and may God continue to bless all of us as we move forward, lifting SVG higher.